already?
So could you tell us just a little bit about how you found out about Peter, and just tell us about yourself and how you find out about Peter?
Yeah, I'm in the house typically for D groups. I'm mostly just kind of hang out like a hermit in my room though, because Tyler kind of has me go. I mean, he says I don't have to go, but I do. And then, yeah, I came out here one time, maybe 2 times, and I saw this guy who was like just hanging out here on this gray chair. And yeah, you know, I took notice. He was just kind of just a guy. Yeah, what I recall about him, he had some dark hair, and he was like young, and I mean, like he looked like somebody's son for sure. And it wasn't until later when I thought about it, and like maybe a week or 2 ago, when I don't know how it came up at all, but for some reason I just like remembered there was this guy that I'd seen before, and I was like, oh, that's the guy. Like, we gotta find out who that is.
How did you come to find out that the fate of the world, perhaps the entire KSU Chi Alpha, was tied up in the question of Peter, who he is, and the color of his hair?
I don't think it's quite like that. Like, I mean, we asked Tyler who Peter was, and we were trying to figure it out.
Yeah, just kind of like, hey, who's this guy? And then I know you guys kind of like went off the rails with him a little bit.
Who is Peter? This seemingly innocent question has plagued the members of a certain D group for generations. His whereabouts, age, even hair color have been disputed by many qualified and unqualified theorists, but none have so far come forward with decisive evidence. But now we must ask, why? Is there a cover-up? A government conspiracy? A communist subversion? Or is it all the above? Or none of the above? Or just the first 2 of the above, but not the third? The whole story began with a string of innocent texts, now known colloquially as the smoking gun transcripts. The identity of Peter had always been shrouded in mystery, until, after careful review of these text messages, certain facts began to emerge. 1, that he had attended the D group hosted by Kyle and Tyler at Kansas State University's branch of Chi Alpha. 2, that he had every appearance of being a son to some unnamed entity. 3, that this individual did not wear glasses, was clean-shaven, and had dark hair. And 4, that he had sat in the round gray chair in the living room of GJ and Megan's shared duplex. This chair/couch type thing could provide evidence about the identity of Peter with the use of modern technology.
This particular sample was found on the circle chair couch thingy at Tyler and Megan's house. We believe it to be Peter's hair, so we'd be subjecting it to a superheated environment and then putting a catalyst on it to further break down the cellular walls and to really just bring out the nucleation sites. So now that the sample has been thoroughly superheated, it's time to apply the catalyst. Now we're just going to let it sit for a couple minutes and be right back. Alright, now that this has set for a while, we're going to take it over to our beaker and see what we can find out, see what the result is. Inconclusive.
So, did Peter have a father?
I don't know. The tests were inconclusive.
Did Peter have a father or not? He either had a father or he didn't have a father.
I don't know. I'm sorry. The tests were inconclusive. You saw the test.
But Peter, did he have a father? Can you confirm that or
can
you not?
I cannot.
There's either one or another. Did Peter have a father?
You saw the test.
Just
we can't do it again. We ruined the sample.
Did he have a father or not?
We need a new sample. I can do the test again. You just get me another sample.
Did Peter have a father?
I don't know. I'm sorry. It was inconclusive.
Did Peter have a father?
It was
Peter
inconclusive.
have a father?
Do you
Did
have a
Peter
father?
have a father?
I bet you don't have a father.
Did Peter have a father?
Whether Peter was in fact someone's son, or whether the whole idea was simply a red herring foisted upon truth seekers by deceptive authorities, was difficult to determine. In search of answers, we sought the counsel of an authority on the subject.
Could you explain to us what is a son?
A son is basically the younger version of a father.
And could you explain a little bit about how sons come about exactly, and how that process works?
Okay, so basically, when a mother and a father love each other very much, they get...
Okay. And could you please explain to us how likely it is that Peter could be a son?
I would say very likely.
Very likely? This promising lead led us to ask, is it possible all our suspicions were true? That the entire U.S. government is involved in a scandal that generations of politicians have been tasked with perpetuating? Aided by none other than the Bilderberg-headed global elite? Does this conspiracy go to the very top?
So if we examine the etymology of the name Peter, we come away with the Greek petros, which means stone or rock. So if we look at the significance of stones throughout history, we find one outlying fact. Freemasons, or as they're more commonly known, stonemasons, have been known throughout history to influence elections in favor of their New World Order agenda. So as we look at this, we can open the metaphorical floodgates to see all sorts of government cover-ups and scandals, and I think, in my informed opinion, if we could just get one connection to the U.S. military and coerce them by offering our support after the puppet government facade falls, we could easily get some juicy details to sell to the Russians.
Could you please tell us about your father's relationship with the military?
Yeah, so my dad is ex-Special Forces, served for 27 years in the military, highly classified information, I've been told. A lot of vast cover-ups, you could say. A lot of cover-ups with, like, everything, really.
So do you think that it's possible that Peter, the identity of who Peter is, could be a part of a vast cover-up, and that Peter could currently reside in an underground bunker underneath the Pentagon?
Yeah, right now he's in a bunker somewhere. I'm not entirely sure, but I would say 90% probably where the president could keep his eye on him.
Extraterrestrials are manipulating your brain with psychotronic rays from interdimensional space. Gandhi was a secret dictator. They are using solar radiation to turn you into communists.
Communists.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are a part of the resistance. Join me.
What does this have to do with Peter?
Who's Peter?
Who is Peter? That is the question. We consulted phone books and called every single person named Peter in the entire city of Manhattan, Kansas, to no avail. We even tried reading 1st and 2nd Peter, but all we could come up with was this.
Something about not to let unprincipled people pull you away from the sure ground of the truth with their lies and misunderstandings.
But as for answers, once again, we came up short. There's only one last place to go, back to the source of it all, the origin of the whole web of rabbit trails, dead ends, and cover-ups. We had to return to the spark that catalyzed the whole escapade, none other than Megan and GJ.
This is part of a ploy for you to pay for your college educations by redirecting funds from the government to a secret slush fund. We know all about that. We talked to an FBI informant. We understand the whole details. We know everything. Okay, so just look, you'd be better off just confessing to us right now. Okay, because it's gonna be easier down the line.
There's some confusion here, but I think it's really great that you all are willing to go so far out of your way to try to find Peter for us. I think that's what Chi Alpha is really about, is being willing to go out of your way for a brother and being willing to track him down and to fight for them. And the fact that, this whole D group of guys is willing to do that for GJ and I is just really, really, that's cool. That's what Chi Alpha's all about, is fighting for each other, so.
Perhaps we will never know the identity of the mysterious Peter. Is he locked away right now in an underground bunker underneath the Pentagon? Is he behind the conspiracy himself, orchestrating it from the controls of the very machinations that preserved his seclusion from the outside world? Is it possible that he never existed? Perhaps Peter is no more than a metaphor for all of us. A phantom who represents our own sequestered souls, in search of answers we will never find.
I am Peter.
I'm Peter.
I am Peter.
I'm Peter.
I'm Peter.
I'm Peter.
Well, I saw the thing coming out of the sky. It had a one long horn and one big eye. I commenced shaking and I said, ooh-wee. It looked like a purple people eater to me. It was a one-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. One-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. A one-eyed, one-horn, flying purple people eater. Sure looked strange to me. Then he came down to earth and he lit in a tree. I said, Mr. Purple People Eater, don't eat me. I heard him say in a voice so gruff, I wouldn't wish you guys well.